Hey there, this is Matt with State of Flux, here with a review for X-Men, with the X-Men making their MCU debut as a functional team in the Avengers Doomsday movie with the complete original cast of the Fox X-Men lineup. I thought I'd go back and actually watch all these movies, most of which I haven't seen in about 10 years. And what's even more fun is I'm actually watching them with my daughter who's never seen them. So I'll give you a little bit of what she thought of the films from a child's perspective, the ones that I allow her to watch, as well as my thoughts now. Getting into it, the X-Men were always a franchise I really liked. It was some of the first comics I got interested in. In the mid-90s, right before the cartoon came to be, I started getting into comics, and the X-Men was one of the gateways to that. It helped with that fantastic animated show being on the air, like, right as I was getting into them. That I was very, very excited when this movie came out in the year 2000. I saw it for my birthday that year, and I have to admit I was a little disappointed. I didn't think it was a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It just didn't wow me like I wanted to. And a lot of why that is, I will touch on in a little bit. But first, I thought I'd give you my thoughts upon watching it now. One of the things that I really do like about the X-Men in general is what they represent based on what they're created. Stan Lee created them as a sort of posit for those that have experienced prejudice. These are the heroes that can speak for them. And anybody who has ever felt othered will be able to latch on to the X-Men, because they do kind of cover all with it. It's first of all the most diverse cast of characters that you got across the board, but it's also something that speaks to race, to gender, to orientation, to religious backgrounds. It caters to a lot of different types of prejudice and works to combat them. And it does it kind of smartly, because you have the Magneto and Professor X characters. And Stan Lee famously has said that he modeled the X-Men after Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. And it allows you to see how there are multiple different ways to combat prejudice. And, well, Stan Lee, and certainly this movie, seems to side with one of those individuals much more than the other. Both sides of the argument are represented in interesting and compelling ways. As much as Magneto is vilified, he also is always kind of in the right and never truly a horrific villain, outside of the fact that he wants to get back at those that have feared and hated him by exposing people to that same level of fear and hatred of themselves. Which is kind of a little bit of an ingenious plan, if you ask me. And I think that is the aspect of the movie that works the best, along with the first incredible act. The first 30 minutes of this movie are phenomenal. And every time I watch it, I think that that opening scene, seeing the birth of Magneto, this small boy who is trying to reach his mother and literally bending the bars to come towards him, is such a stunning shot. It represents a piece of history that should never have been forgotten, while also contextualizing where this character is coming from and why he feels so strongly the way he does. Following that up immediately with Rogue's story, where you start following the X-Men from a student perspective, is quite smart. And the film not only characterizes the villain quite well as obviously the teachings of Charles Xavier, the film has you follow two main characters: a student lead that will that younger viewers will naturally latch onto, and an adult lead. And the adult lead is where it becomes quite brilliant in the setup of the screenplay. I have famously said that Wolverine is not my favorite character. I've always felt that Wolverine works best as a side character because that is what he was created to be. Once his popularity thrust him into the forefront so often, I don't think that his character has ever been built to sustain that. His character is a blank slate. He's a tabula rasa. He is the thing that is always asking questions because he doesn't know who he is, and therefore a story doesn't support his weight so much. You can make it work, and some of the movies certainly do, but I think using him as the blank slate to try to understand and make a choice one way or the other is really quite smart. All of this works, and I think Wolverine works best in this film until he gets to one of his solo films later on, which we will discuss. That being said, all of these positives kind of dissolve away a little bit because you get to the X-Men School for Gifted Youngsters, and where the movie should come together in a whole the way the Avengers does. Once you introduce the X-Men, the movie kind of meanders and gets a little boring, and it never really comes back to that strong first act that we saw, even in its conclusion. Sure, there's some really neat set pieces with Liberty Island and whatnot, but nothing really soars the way that first act does, which is disappointing. Another thing that is kind of a bummer with the movie is that the whole notion of X-Men as sort of allegory for prejudice and whatnot really works in the comics. In the comics you have heroes that everybody acknowledges and accepts. Your Iron Man, your Captain America, your Doctor Strange. These are characters that are supported by society, accepted as heroes, and cheered as the Fantastic Four are. These are characters that either chose to be heroes or a bad day molded them into what they are, and society allows it. And in the comics, you also have the mutants, the people that are born different, and society rejects them. They look down on them, they fear, and they hate them. In the comics, this works wonders. But in a film landscape, it doesn't work as well because you don't have the opposite there. You don't have your Iron Man and stuff like that. You don't have your Fantastic Four. So when you have long scenes where the politicians are saying these are people to be fearful of, and then they start exhibiting their powers of being able to control the weather at will, or tap into the mind of any single person, or light fires, or freeze things, or touch somebody and absorb their power and their life right into them, or shoot claws out of their fists. I kind of get where the humans are coming from. It does, the whole prejudice thing doesn't work as strong. And that's something that I bumped into with most of the X-Men movies. They try to navigate this thing and they have a strong thesis there, but the allegory doesn't work because you don't have both sides of that at play. Instead, you have two sides of the people that are prejudiced, which is the Martin Luther King, Charles Xavier, and Magneto, Malcolm X. That stuff, as I say, kind of works. The film and Stan Lee seem to largely lean towards the Martin Luther King way of things, yeah. It's unfortunate that the middle of this film falls apart and the last act isn't rousing enough to really soar. I know that there are people that I've talked to that maintain this is the best superhero movie, and I think that's absolutely insane. There's a lot of good here, and I think mileage may vary depending on how much prejudice you yourself have experienced. I do think that Bryan Singer, the problematic element that he is, did bring a quality element to the film by having the gay allegory at play quite a bit. One of the strongest lines in the film is after Wolverine's claws come out and they like rip and it hurts, and he's driving Rogue, and Rogue's just looking at his knuckles, and she asks if it hurts when they come out, and he says every time. You see between the lines that what they're talking about is the coming out of a person when you're found out and whatnot, and the reaction that you get to it. These are people that have been burned so many times by it. That's a really strong scene, and there's not enough of those in this film. There's a lot of good ones, but then for every scene like that, you have the terrible scene of Wolverine and Cyclops meeting for the first time and discussing Jean Grey, where Cyclops has the perfect thing to say. He says, if I had to do that, she wouldn't be my girl. And that's, boom, end of scene. You don't need anything further. And then the scene goes on, and then Cyclops is like, hey Logan, stay away from my girl. I hate that. It's terrible. So for every good scene you have, other scenes that don't have the allegory at play seem to drop the ball pretty hard. I mentioned Joss Whedon of the Avengers. He took a crack at the screenplay because he didn't feel that they got the X-Men right. And I think he is right. He said that the X-Men never came together as a unified team, so he rewrote the script basically from the ground up to give you a story where the team comes together and functions like a team and whatnot. And while they didn't use supposedly anything that he wrote outside of the Cyclops "you're a dick" moment and the middle finger of Wolverine, and then I believe the what happens to the frog that gets struck by lightning, same thing that happens to everything else. Toad, not frog. Besides those three things, they didn't keep any of his stuff. He's not wrong. The film should soar when the X-Men come together. The film flounders once the X-Men are introduced, because the film isn't concerned with having the X-Men. It's concerned about making a story for Wolverine. And while I think he's utilized well in this, it's the fact that they didn't write a cohesive team for him, and he didn't get to see how they act and interact in a functional way ever, really hurts the film, kind of. Let's see, do I have anything else I would like to address? The film is okay, just a little bit better than okay. I give it a soft pass. I do really think that Hugh Jackman brings great energy and is fantastic in the film to a character that is so radically different than his paper comic counterpart, but his own charisma sells this beast-like man, and he does a great job. I think filling the cast with great accredited actors and Oscar winners is quite smart. You have Anna Paquin, you have Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, James Marsden, Famke Janssen. These are great actors, and they elevate what's there. It's just unfortunate that the film isn't as good as it could and or probably should be. But let me know what you thought of the X-Men in the comment area down below. As I say, I've talked to people who think it is the best comic book movie, and I don't even think it's... I think this might be like the middlemost movie of the X-Men franchise. There's a lot better movies that come after it, and I think there's a lot worse too. And we'll explore all of them in due time. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Oh, I forgot to tell you about what my daughter thought. My daughter really liked it. She knew nothing about the X-Men outside of just a couple character names. She was blown away, and she really, really liked Wolverine, and I was like, you're one of the plebes. No, I'm just kidding. Who doesn't love Wolverine in the films? She really latched on to his character. She also really liked Rogue. Yeah. Her 10-year-old brain was satisfied with the amount of action. I thought she'd find it boring, but she was invested the whole way through, and she was kind of picking up on the whole notion of prejudice and whatnot. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.